Welcome back to this afternoon session. My name's Mark. Oh wait, you knew that already. I'm actually looking forward to this afternoon because we have now a series of really high-powered presentations and facilitations. As I said to you earlier, this is not going to be a conference about speaking at you. It's mostly a conference where we're uncovering, we're scratching, we're rolling hand grenades. We're actually thinking about disrupting things. And so this afternoon content from our guest speaker, Bob McGannon, is really right on the money for this. Bob McGannon is based here in Australia, originally from offshore. You might pick that up from his accent, but he's a certified trainer, and he's a registered coach by Boeing Aircraft Corporation. In addition, Bob's a certified trainer and coach for Ball Corporation. Some of you may be familiar with that. Not the jar company, but the aerospace. He's also a certified project executive by IBM, so deeply embedded in knowledge around project management systems. Let this, recognize that no less than 3 organizations have decided that Bob is certifiable. So it's just, that's the way Bob is. You'll get to know that about him in a moment, and no, I won't quit my day job, because most of you are thinking, what does he mean by that? Oh no, Bob's certifiable. Bob takes this content, this idea about intelligent disobedience very passionately through lessons learned, life experience, and having worked around the world. He's also been referred to as the court jester of leadership and training and learning. So I think you'll see a little energy lift, which will combat the carbohydrate crunch that some of you might be drifting into, especially if you discovered the dessert table around the back. But this idea behind intelligent disobedience as a presentation or as a topic is meant to challenge. It's with all due respect that we all come here with a level of wisdom and knowledge, but it's also to have a little bit of fun because we do now know more about a little bit of fun goes a long way in anchoring some learning. So please help me welcome Bob McGannon to the stage and his presentation around intelligent disobedience, the difference between good and great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome back from lunch. I am just praising the scheduling gods and goddesses for this. My job is to get the blood out of your digestive system and back into your brain. So I'm hoping we can do this together versus you just relying on me to do this up here. So I need to ask you something. How many of you are intrigued with the intelligent bit of my program title? No? Oh, you're here for the disobedience then. That's what it is. All right. We'll do the renegade version of the presentation today. Bring up the renegade version. So what is this? Best way to describe intelligent disobedience to you is to have you meet Chap. My whole idea about leadership, be it in the training environment or any environment, changed in a lobby in a hotel in San Diego, California, about 8 years ago. I'd had a long day. I walked into the area where there's lifts, called the lift, and I'm standing there just taking a deep breath, and there's a motion that comes into the left side of me. I look and I see a gentleman, very sharply dressed, and his seeing eye dog who's wearing a bow tie. Oh, yeah, save that because I'm going to be in awe. There's going to be some awe moments later. So I was about to greet them and say hello because I'm very impressed with this pair. When the elevator ding, that very, or lift, I'd be multicultural here. The elevator shows up, there's a ding, and I hear the whoosh of the doors opening. That's when I realized something was wrong. The elevator had malfunctioned. It was about, the bottom of the elevator was maybe 20 centimeters below the floor that I and my new colleague were standing on. Now, I'm always impressed with seeing eye dogs because they're just so cool. They're cool. They're just doing their job. Imagine what's going on in their head. I'm just doing my job. I'm doing my job. Doing my job. You see that? They don't seem panicked. There's all sorts of things going on. They have massive responsibility, and they're just doing my job, doing my job, doing my job, right? It's cool. I've seen a seeing eye dog not be cool. that elevator opened and that dog responded like this. What do you figure it did? What do you reckon? What is that? Barking? No. Say that again? No? Well, maybe. Maybe that's a version. Yeah, move in front. Okay. Some people say put the brakes on. That dog leapt into action literally. He jumped 90 degrees, pulling the stiff handle right out of his master's hand, and he stood in front of his leader. He stood in front of his master at a 90-degree angle to prevent his master from entering that lift. I was impressed. I said, I want to tell you what just happened. And he goes, the elevator's failed, hasn't it? So he knew exactly what was going on. I said, but that was amazing what your dog just did. And he said, that's called intelligent disobedience. A third of the dogs that go into seeing eye dog training come out. Only a third. And what makes the difference? Their ability to handle intelligent disobedience. He says, this dog, Chap, is extraordinarily obedient. But when he doesn't obey me, I obey him. And I'm thinking, what if leaders grasp this concept? Now, before you go thinking about this too hard, yes, I'm saying we're dogs and our masters are blind. Let's just get that out of the way. It does happen. It's not that far-fetched. But really, when should we, as training professionals, be following the direction we get, and when shouldn't we? So let's talk a little bit more about that concept and what intelligent disobedience is. Okay. It's probably wise to do this, to talk about what intelligent disobedience is not. First, this is not for you and personal gain. This is for the business and the people that we are going to train, want to advance, want to help grow. This is not, I have a wild hair today. I'm going to try a little intelligent disobedience. Not like that. Second, it is not any form of protest whatsoever. This is not something you do to make a statement. This is something you do to get a better training outcome. Third, I am not a proponent of lying because you think it's the right thing to do. So I don't want you to compromise your ethics. However, that's a very, very slippery slope sometimes with some intelligent disobedience. You're going to hear a story here in a minute where someone could say, maybe fibbed a little furphy, maybe. Okay? It's also not passive-aggressive. It's not, I'm just going to do something different because, again, another form of protest. Okay? And again, it's only in certain circumstances for a specific business gain. Everybody cool with that? Any questions? I'm happy to take questions at any time, so feel free. And for those folks that are remote and live with us, I'll get some sort of signal if you ask a question, and certainly there's a means to contact me if you're watching this after the fact. So, 4 things I want to talk about. First, the whole idea of leadership behavior. We are leaders in the training environment, and if we're not, we are not serving our businesses to the degree to which we should. We're capable of doing this. I'm not going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you capable of doing this. Not easy, sometimes, intelligent disobedience, but I would hold you capable. Okay? I'm going to talk about when we're teaching people not to listen to you. I'm training you on something, but don't do this all the time. I'm going to talk about facilitating an extraordinarily difficult exercise. Joshua Knight was on this very stage before lunch talking about failure. I'm going to talk about learning experiences through failure that an organization that I have run uses on a regular basis. And lastly, I'm going to give you a chance to explore a little bit of intelligent disobedience before I'm finished, because we're going to do a little exercise together with one of the intelligent disobedience tools I use. Okay? Let's get going. First, I want to talk about this leadership behavior of driving a business outcome. Now, I need your help, particularly for the folks that are remote. This story has multiple players in it. And I'm going to use the laser pointer to give you a hint as to who I'm talking about at one point in time, just to make sure we understand who's who in the zoo and who I'm talking about. However, for the folks that are remote may not see the laser pointer on the wall, I need some sound effects. Are you okay with sound effects? Just, you know, it helps that blood get back into the brain. So here we go. There's a little bit of an org chart. Now the training manager's named Greg. Yeah, see, it's going to be hard. Oop. The training manager's named Greg. Greg has a Superman sign next to him, so we're going to go, ta-da! That was almost puny. Let's try better there. Ready? The training manager's Greg. Perfect. They'll all hear you now. You can hear everybody. Okay, the sponsor of this exercise is new to the organization. Okay? He loves people, wants to empower him. So we have a little angel sign next to him. So everybody say, "Aww." Very good. Okay, that's the sponsor. Now, the sponsor has a peer who is very, very disappointed that he did not get the sponsor's job. So there's a little bit of an antagonist to some training that's going to happen. So the sponsor's peer has a devil associated with him. Let's just go, boo, boo. All right, very good. All right, now we all have, and they all report to the big kahuna. Okay, who's the boss? Here's the story. So Greg, our training manager, excellent, okay, has been asked to train 600 people across the country, all right, in some new business processes. The sponsor's peer, for a number of reasons, none of which are really very good, is opposing this whole idea, doesn't think the training's a good idea, so there's a bit of angst in some conversations. Okay? Sponsor's peer, that's right, causing trouble. Okay. So what do you do when you're a training manager and you got a little bit of angst about a course and you're going to train 600 people? What do you do? Call for help. Turn and run. You run a pilot. So, pretty wise, they get 22 people from across the organization. They bring people in from all over the country. They run a pilot. The pilot, as people are leaving the room, are absolutely thrilled. They are fantastic. Exercise, it's great. So, we start lining up facilitate. Greg, that was a little slow, but you got there. Okay. Greg, the training manager, starts putting facilitators in place and scheduling the session, and the sponsor is, he's thrilled. It's really good. And then somebody else shows up. Ooh. He tells the sponsor and the big kahuna, I got some very negative input about this pilot. Now our sponsor, oh, you're running out of steam now. We're way too early in this story for you to run out of steam. The sponsor calls the training manager. That's right, and says, stop. I want you to cancel all of the sessions. We got some negative input. Greg, our training manager, says, okay, I'm out of town at the moment. I'll be in your office first thing the next morning. He immediately gets on the phone to all the facilitators. Doesn't cancel the sessions. He says, talk to the folks that are working, that you're going to be working with. I want to find out what input you can get on this pilot, because it seemed to be really positive. So they start that process. The next morning, our training manager shows up in the sponsor's office. Oh, very good thing. Okay? And he's already got all of this input from people that's very, very positive. The sponsor says, maybe something else is going on here. Let's collect some detailed information. I'm liking this so far. I'm liking this so far. The training manager ultimately did something very interesting. He didn't defend the training. He ultimately, in that conversation with the sponsor, said, maybe there's a political play going on here. I'm not going to defend the training. I want to defend your position in the organization right now, because if this is going to succeed, you need to figure this out. And the information that we can collect about this pilot ultimately might be the way for you to reestablish or establish your position, seeing you're new here. Pretty interesting concept. They gathered the information, just like they said. And what happened? There was one person in the pilot that complained. Do you want to guess who that person reported to? Boo, exactly. Ooh, the day one breakout. I hate when that happens. Okay, so they ultimately find out it's just one person. The big kahuna gets all of the information, that here's where the positive input was, here was the one instance of a negative input. This person, the peer, boo, that's right, had a bit of a reputation anyway. The training went on. It was declared one of the most productive and positive training exercises they ever went through. Trained 600 people in 7 weeks. So here's my question for you. And for you folks remotely, I'm going to ask you to look at this. All right? If you're here live or later, you can think about this yourself. I'm talking about intelligent disobedience. There's at least 3 instances of intelligent disobedience in this story. What do you think they were? The training manager said okay, but he didn't ultimately cancel those courses. That's number 1. A fantastic bit of intelligent disobedience. By the way, he didn't say he would. He just said, okay, he heard the message. So whether that's ethical or not, I don't have an issue with that. Because the very next morning when he went to the sponsor's office, he said, I haven't canceled the courses. Instead, I did this. So he came clean the very first opportunity he was face-to-face with. So this is not about hiding things, right? Intelligent disobedience. Very good. Thank you. Those of you remote, want to think about it. If you have another instance, you could share that. Not, I'm going to go to the room. Another instance of intelligent disobedience. Okay, so the sponsor ultimately didn't go through with the canceling and probably worked to get some more information, work with the big kahuna. Absolutely. There's something related to that, though. What about when our training manager ultimately went to the sponsor's office? What did he do? In fact, what did he not do? I mentioned that in the presentation earlier of this story. He didn't defend the training. Instead, he defended the sponsor. If he had justified the training being good, but the sponsor wasn't in a good position, this is going to be like Eeyore. You know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? Oh no, another training, another disaster. Right? It's going to be like that. The sponsor needs to be in a good position. So that's the second bit of intelligent disobedience he did. The third, I want to share a concept with you. What ultimately our training manager did, you're getting good, this is good. What our training manager did is seek information and truth. And he did so on a very, very important premise around intelligent disobedience. I don't own the truth. Libby doesn't own the truth. Russell doesn't own the truth. We all own the truth. Because we've come from different backgrounds. What might be very risky to me may be very comfortable to somebody else. I may have a very good and relaxed relationship with the big kahuna. That doesn't mean that our sponsor does. It's a collection. He gathered truth, a very important concept of intelligent disobedience, and a very important concept for us in the training environment to understand truth or discover it through our processes, because only then, by understanding that as-is element, can we bring someone to a to-be place. Questions on that? So I'm going to go to another story. All right. Let's talk about when not to listen, particularly in a training perspective. This actually happened to me about 2 months ago. We were talking about being entrepreneurial this morning. I actually sold a business to a business partner of mine. It was a project management training and consulting business. We had one in the US and a sister company here in Australia, and I've sold them both to an Australian individual. 2 months ago, I'm in the US, and I'm going to go to the bank with these documents that says I've sold the business. Now, this business partner of mine was already on the bank account in the US, and he could withdraw funds, deposit funds, he could do all these things, in person or electronically, whatever the case may be. I'm in the US, he's down here in Australia. So I walk into the bank with these witnessed and notarized papers that says I've sold the business to him to say, take me off the bank account, please. I shouldn't be on it, I have no right to be on it, and in a world where you have Equifax issues and data security issues, I don't want to be on this account. And I think it's in my best interest, it's in the bank's best interest, and it's in my former business partner, now new owner of the business, interest. So, anybody go to the bank and expect things to happen in 5 minutes? You have something like this? For those of you, you said yes? No. For those of you that aren't in the room, no one's rushing up to sell their bank process to me, right? So, this is going to take a while. So I go in, and the first thing I notice is this person, whose name is Jackie. Jackie's worked for the bank for 15 years. She's got not one, not two, 4 customer service awards on her desk. I'm like, oh, there's hope. I might be able to get out of here before my hair turns black again. Which is going to be a long time, by the way. But anyhow, so I explain this situation, and the more I'm talking, the more shocked she looks. Says, but we don't do this. What do you mean you don't do this? You don't take people off accounts? Oh, no. The person that is leaving the account doesn't come in to do this. The person that's now the new owner comes in to do this. I said, he's in Australia. You know, I'm going to fly here to sign a piece of paper to do something that makes sense even though I'm here. She goes, yeah, I get it, but I don't know how to do this. And I said, okay. She says, we have processes. Let me ask about these processes. One, to me, there are, in any business, and we teach these, by the way, more often, particularly when they change. It's our responsibility to make sure people understand these. I said, there are processes that are associated with the bank in this instance, as I'm talking to Jackie, and there are regulatory processes that we have to worry about with the state of Minnesota and the United States government. Which of these are you thinking you can't manage? Is it your bank's processes, or is there a regulatory issue here? And she ponders that for me. She said, no, I think that's our processes because I'm thinking the auditors are going to catch something. I said, okay, so this is one of those instances in the 2% margin. You create a process and it serves you well for 98% of the time. This ain't one of those times. We're in the 2 over here in the end. I'm the weird guy coming in trying to do the right thing. She goes, yeah, you are a weird guy, but I think you're all right. Which it was kind of uncomfortable. She agreed with that, but anyhow, we moved on. So I said, so what do you do when you want to change processes? She says, I got to call the support team. I said, fab, call the support team. So she called. You know what? People in the bank wait on the phone for people from the bank just as much as we wait for people in the bank. I was like, oh, my hair might just turn black after all. But anyhow, so she then talks to somebody, explains the situation, hangs up. She goes, I don't know. We just got to get an exception. I said, so where do you get an exception? The bank branch manager. Where do you think the bank branch manager was? In the office right next door. Well, I've been here by this time almost an hour. Not exaggerating, almost an hour. Now, this person, 15 years in the bank, delightful person Jackie is, by the way, 4 customer service awards, walks next door into the branch manager's office, and then she does, and I apologize for this graphic, but this is exactly what it was like. She was like a cat coughing up a hairball. Poof! Just drops the problem right on the branch manager's desk. No recommendation as to what to do, just, I do think that makes sense that we should do this, but I have no idea what to do. Now, he proceeds to understand the situation. He goes, Oh, okay, yeah, there's an audit issue associated with this, but we can document this, do this, and then we solve the problem in 10 minutes. Now, here's the failure to me. When we are providing training, we sometimes, if we're doing this very, very well, we include people and understand what it is this new process should be or what it is they're trying to learn. We understand their weaknesses, we understand their strengths, and then we teach them this new process or this new bit of knowledge, right? Sound familiar? Here's what we don't do. We rarely, in my experience, say, except when this stuff happens and don't listen to a word I say and discard this process. We don't teach intelligent disobedience. We should. Jackie could have gotten me in and out of her office in 15 minutes. 15 years at the bank, 4 customer service awards, but she was never taught when not to follow the process or how not to follow the process. That's something that we should do. We're talking about change and organizational failures and that sort of thing. Again, Joshua did that just before lunch. If you're going to engage in change, I have never known anybody to write a process, particularly a new one an organization has not done before, and have it be perfect in a crystal ball and cover all situations. So if you go back to the concept of intelligent disobedience, it says you want to get a better business outcome, the ideal business outcome, here's the process, here's when we follow the process, and oh, by the way, here's when to chuck it out the window. And here's where you go from there. Now, we can argue whether Jackie should have had the wherewithal or the authority to actually do that or not. But she should have been able to formulate an idea. I think we can do this and present that to her branch manager, or whoever she needed to present it to, and I'd have been on there in 20 minutes. Instead, I took I was there almost 2 hours, explaining the same thing to 3 different people. So that's the second idea of intelligent disobedience. First, we need to just engage in what is the best business outcome. Second thing that we need to do is understand when we need to teach people something, and at the same time not forget the piece of saying, but except in these situations, don't do what we're telling you, you need to do something different. And we forget that last piece. Yes, please, ask a question.
The potential risk is that someone dies. So I'm talking about aged care, and I've got people that have been trained to mitigate risk. Yep.
Sure. Okay, so what if someone's make a mistake with good intent associated with this? I think the idea, first of all, intelligent disobedience is contextual, be it in a training environment or any sort of learning environment. So to just contrast this, if you're in the military, I don't care whether it's US or here, if you're in the military and you openly, publicly challenge your senior officer, that's not going to be a good day. If you're in Google, you're expected to do that. So I'm not going to say this particular act is an act of intelligent disobedience because that's contextual. It could be, that same act could be very commonplace in one and an amazing bit of intelligent disobedience in another. Okay, so that's the first premise. The second premise is you need to be able to do your homework associated with this to define boundaries. If you think about the bank example I just shared, I asked a very important, what I thought was an important question up front. Are we violating regulation or are we violating process? That's defining the boundaries. If it was in violating regulation, I'd have said, okay, thank you very much. Sometime we're going to have to figure out how my business partner gets to the US and sign these things, and we'll go home. Jackie's all right? That happens to be a Jackie, by the way. I met her earlier, not just a... Yeah, one more, George. Yeah, sure. Mike?
Two months ago, a guy died who actually is proving your point. He was a Russian, and he was in charge of the missile defense system in 1983 when the sign came up, rockets invading Russia. He had approximately 1 to 2 minutes to make up his mind whether or not to fire the strategic missile back. Nuclear war would have descended upon America and the rest of the world. He was thinking, should I press the button? Have I got time to ring my superior? It might take 5 or 10 minutes, rockets coming in. So he had to make up his mind. He made up his mind that it was a computer malfunction. He did not press the button and risk the fact that Russia could have been annihilated, but thank God he accepted your theory and did not press the button, and we're all here today.
Yes, that's a really good thing. By the way, along this term, there is an opposite of intelligent disobedience. It's called malicious obedience. And you can hear it. It sounds something like this. Okay, if that's what you want me to do, that's what I'll do. Now, obviously, in that case, we didn't. Another example of intelligent disobedience and the whole idea of how we should do something different. And one of the things, again, I was in Joshua's presentation and talked about failure, and Bernard earlier this morning was talking about entrepreneurship, and maybe you've got to stumble and fail and get there. This is a course we've run on systems integration, which that bit's not important, but we give them a case study exercise in that course in the business I used to own to build this. Now this is made with magnet sticks, little plastic sticks and little metal balls, right? And they're all magnetic, and you can build things with it. But here's what we do. We take the classroom, and we only do this within a live classroom right now, but with the tools that I'm hearing about, I'm really scared, but I think we can do this other ways. But anyhow, that's another story. I think it's great. I said, we were talking earlier when Mark said, what do you want to have on Thursday afternoon? I said, I want to be scared a little. And I already am. Because I'm thinking about doing something with this, but it'd be cool. So this is what we do. We break the room into 4 tables. We provide one table. You are the coordinator, program manager, integration manager, and we give them a small piece of this and says, that's your piece to build. You have to use the other 3 tables, and they have to build a piece. But we put cardboard barriers up so no one can see the other piece that they're building. They can use FaceTime to talk about things. And we talk about the issues and risk and concerns with systems integration. But we let them fail. Only a quarter of the class teams ever complete this. And it's actually much more complicated than this, which is really pretty strange to see. It is full of learning moments. From a facilitation point of view, it's a horribly exhausting course to teach because you totally lose control. But there are so many learning moments because we tell them the risks and issues associated with integrating something, and then they actually live them out right in front of you. They fail. And what do? We celebrate. Fail! Try it. See? Do it. I'm serious. Fail! How's it feel? Weird. But the idea is we help them fail forward in a safe environment. They are learning more through these failures than they ever would if I gave them something simple, and they succeeded. It reinforces what's in the learning. The other thing that it does is it provides what those students need to know. I can guess, the sponsor can say, yes, we have this weakness, but we present this to them and the weakness pops up right away in the actions they do take or the actions they don't in trying to get this thing built. It is a self-guiding course. Whatever the students need happens, and then we help them through that process. So the idea of giving them something in a training that fails is another context of intelligent disobedience in the learning environment. Now, we've got some handouts I'm going to give you, okay? The folks and the facilitators here are going to do this. I'm going to describe what you're about to get, and then I'm going to give you just a few minutes to do this because we want to stay on time. In an intelligent disobedience workshop, we ask questions after we've told everybody the truth is not your truth. The truth is a collection of truth. And then we do this, what we call a leadership quiz. So this is another form of intelligent disobedience, I would say. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. When these things get distributed, all right, at your tables, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the tables on this side of the room, I want you to look at question 1 and come up with a rationale for what you'd choose. The questions on this side of the room, including this table here, question 2, I want you to take a look at it, okay, and see what you would come up with. So read it, they're short. Talk about it with your tables, and then for those of you that are watching this either live or in tape later, you should have that in the briefcase. Go get out the leadership quiz, and then you'll see what it is that we're about to address. So again, I got to be quick. 2 minutes. Share a couple. Come up with your proposed action relative to the scenario I paint there, and we'll talk about what you think you should do. Sorry? Absolutely, please, go right ahead. Okay, I want to pull you back together so we stay on time. If you hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap twice. Excellent. Thank you for coming back. For those of you that are on virtual or watching this afterward, let's take a look at some of these questions. So I'm just going to get a couple of opinions on question 1. What should you do given this situation? C. Really? Go ahead. What do you think? None. All right, I'm liking that option better. Go ahead, say that again. None of the above. Okay. Okay. I think that's probably wise. Look, if you have Jonathan and he's got 2 more days of work to do, you're probably going to do something different than if there's 2 days into a 6-month-long project. Right? So there's other truth that has to be gathered. But I would suggest to you, well, let me go to question 2 and we'll look at that for a minute. Question 2, those of you who look at question 2, what do you think you should do? A, B, C. Oh, there you go. All of them. I actually like that too, because there's probably instances associated with all of these options. We give this quiz to people, and sometimes we will spend an hour on each of these questions. And each of those potential answers, we ask the question, under what circumstances would you do A? Under what circumstances would you do B? What you do C? And what are we teaching people? How to look at what is a standard process and determine if there are instances or circumstances when that process will not serve your business well. In other words, when you can engage in intelligent disobedience. That's the leadership quiz. So another sample of how you can bring this into your training environment. Okay, so real quick, we got a couple minutes. Any meaty questions? I'll wait. All right, I'll let that sit. I'm going to be here the rest of today. I'm going to be here for most of the day tomorrow. But this conversation and exploration of this topic doesn't have to end. If you have a business card and you put an A on your business card, I'll add you to a mailing list. If you want me to call you, and I will just call you, like on the phone, to have a conversation. If you don't get to me and want to chat about this, put a C on a business card. And if you want this leadership quiz template, there's actually 8 questions that we have in the leadership quiz. I'll send the whole thing to you so you can use these and adopt these for your own environments if you wish. Put a T on a business card and give it to me. I'm Bob McGannon, Bob at IntelligentDisobedience.com, and this has been a little bit of Intelligent Disobedience. Thank you for your attention today. Just pointing it out.
Wow. I'm never asking Bob for help again, because if I get the wrong answer, I'll feel very oh no, I'll fail forward. That's the idea. That's it. Thanks, Bob. A quick round of applause for Bob McGannon, folks. Thank you, Bob. All right, ladies and gentlemen, grab your Post-it notes, grab your record keeping, grab your screen, grab your sketch pad. I'd like you to think for just 2 seconds. What do you want to take away from Bob's information, his ideas? Were there a couple of rolling hand grenades there? How do you want to use some of that to go back, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or when you get back on deck, and maybe think about, I've got to ask better questions to get to that collective truth? That was one I took away. What's the collective truth? Oftentimes, learning and development gets caught in the he said, she said space. You know, like the 2 sponsors. Oh, the pilot went fantastically. Oh no, I heard it was horrible. Yeah, what's the collective truth? What's the reality? The other piece I got about it was just that notion of we can do it for the betterment of the business. It's not about playing games. It's actually about adding value to the business rather than just following. So that's a good one. And that takes us, if you think about it, the little game or the little scenario skit that Joshua and I played out earlier, that takes us out of sheep learning. You know, follow me, but think outside the box. I love that analogy of, is this in the 98% follow the rules because that's what we got, or is it in the 2% where we think intelligently about making an adjustment? Is that a rule, a regulation, or is that just something that's a guideline? So thanks, Bob, for that. It's awesome stuff, and I look forward to hearing more about that. And Bob's with us for these 2 days. So again, if you're a reflective learner and something bubbles up, look for Bob. His hair won't be turning black before the weekend's out.